They say the truth sets you free. But no one warns you that it can also shatter everything you've ever known. Mark and I had been married for 33 years. We met young. I was 24, just started my career as a school teacher, and he was a charming accountant with eyes that always looked like they were keeping a secret, though back then, I thought that was just mystery. Our life together was not extravagant, but it was stable, comfortable, a suburban dream, complete with dinner parties, vacations to national parks, and Sunday morning coffee rituals. People envied us. You too are the definition of soulmates, our friends would say. But soulmates don't lie. Soulmates don't hide entire lives. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was subtle, a name whispered in sleep. Lena. I asked who Lena was, and Mark laughed it off. Probably just a student I worked with once, he said, brushing crumbs off his shirt. That was a decade ago. When the cancer came, it moved like a wildfire. 1 month, he was jogging around the neighborhood. The next, he was bedridden in palliative care, his frame wasting away, face sinking into his bones. The nurses would leave us alone for long stretches. I'd sit next to him, holding his hand, watching monitors beep steadily beside us. Every once in a while, he'd open his eyes and give me that same look, the mysterious one. Only now it was haunted. 3 days before he passed, he gripped my hand and whispered, "There's something you need to know." I leaned closer. His lips were cracked, and his voice a shallow breath. I wasn't faithful. My heart stopped. I didn't mean for it to go on. But I loved her too. For years. Her name was Lena. My stomach twisted. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was stare at the man I had devoted my life to. The man who, with his dying breath, was unraveling everything we'd built. He tried to say more, but his eyes fluttered shut. That was the last full sentence he ever said to me. Mark died 2 nights later. People came to the funeral in droves, hugging me tightly, telling me what a good man he was. And I nodded, smiled through it, wore the widow's mask they expected. While inside, I was hollow, vibrating with unanswered questions. Who was she? How long had this gone on? Had they shared hotel rooms while I waited at home, making his favorite roast for dinner? After the burial, I went through his things, slowly, methodically, looking for anything. I wasn't even sure what I hoped to find. Closure? A letter? A photo? What I found instead was a second phone, hidden in a locked metal box in the garage, tucked behind a shelf of tax records. It was dead, but I paid to have it powered on and retrieved. There were texts, photos, voicemails. The first message dated back to 1998. Her name was Lena Carter. She lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They had met during a conference he attended, one I remembered well, because I had a bad cold that week, and he'd call me each night to check in. I now know that after those calls, he'd return to her hotel room and fall asleep next to her. Their relationship spanned over 20 years. There were pictures of them at art galleries, hiking in the desert, even celebrating her birthday. He bought her a necklace one year, the same one he told me he'd gotten for his secretary as a retirement gift. In one voicemail, her voice broke through the static. I know we said we'd never ruin what you have, but sometimes I wish I had more of you, all of you. It made me sick. I didn't know what to do. Burn the phone, call her, drive to her house? In the end, I needed to see her. I flew to Santa Fe 2 weeks later. I told no one. Not my daughters, not my sister, not even my therapist. Lena answered her door in a flowing white blouse and jeans. Her hair was gray, braided down her back, and her eyes widened the second she saw me. "You must be," she began. "His wife," I said flatly. She nodded and stepped aside. We sat in her sunlit kitchen, surrounded by succulents and the smell of jasmine tea. She didn't deny anything. She told me everything. How they'd tried to end it multiple times, how they convinced themselves it was love, how she respected the fact that he never left me. Respected me? I wanted to throw the tea in her face, but I didn't. Instead, I asked her one question: did he love me? She looked down at her cup. Yes, I believe he did. He wanted both lives. And he wasn't brave enough to give up either. I left her house with no satisfaction, no righteous closure, just more grief layered over betrayal. When I got home, I told my daughters. They cried with me. We sat in the living room, surrounded by old albums and stories, and we tore down the pedestal we'd place him on. I didn't burn his pictures, but I boxed them away. I didn't throw away my ring, but I moved it to a drawer, and I started therapy. I learned that you can love someone and still grieve the version of them that never really existed. Mark's betrayal didn't define all of him, but it did define our marriage in a way I never wanted to admit. He made a choice over and over again to split his heart. And now, in the wake of his confession, I've made mine. I chose myself. I bought a small cottage on the coast, planted a garden, adopted a rescue dog, and began writing again, something I hadn't done since college. I thought the truth would break me, but what I didn't expect was that it would also set me free. I thought the truth would break me, but what I didn't expect was that it would also set me free. Because now, for the first time in decades, I'm not living in someone else's shadow. I'm not second to a secret. I'm not holding together a life built on half-truths. I'm living for me. Some nights, I still dream of him, the man I thought he was, and sometimes I cry, not for him, but for the years I lost. But every morning I wake up in my little seaside cottage, walk barefoot into the kitchen, and brew my own coffee, the way I like it. I sit by the window with the dog, curled up at my feet, and watch the waves roll in. There's pain in the truth, but there's peace too. And in that peace, I found myself again.